Hey, what the hell's going on, you guys? It is Triple Play Negative AE, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Last we left off, we had um, we're at the last chapter basically. We've kind of finished everything else. We heard that Rika, I guess, like made predictions about everything that was going to happen. Well, I mean, she correctly predicted everything that was going to happen. So it's odd. The only thing that she missed and that I don't see is that Tomitaki-san dies. And I don't know why that is, because Tomitaki-san is like integral. I'm really interested to hear the answers to everything, but I know they're going to provide me with more questions here at the end. And we're going to see. I'm just going to go ahead. Oh yeah, I have to read tips. I remember. A mother's diary 3 times. Good. Yeah, let's do the first one. This is already off to a great start. Okay, here we go. There was something I didn't like about my child. I first realized it when I started writing these things down. They never and then they put the scary music in there. Alright, here we go. They never warn you about it in any books about raising children, but they aren't just a plaything. If they aren't able to feel loved when they're not wait they aren't able to feel loved even when they're not doing exactly as their parents want them to, then those parents are failures. This wasn't something like that though. How can I say it? It's probably harder to express with mere words. I just wanted my child to be average. As long as they weren't falling behind, there wasn't any need for them to excel at something. As long as they acted appropriately for their age, I would have been fine with it. My child had been different ever since kindergarten. While the children in her class were running around in excitement about the field trip the next day, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the other kids broke the equipment for the athletics festival and were apologizing fervently, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the teacher was reading a fun picture book, only she wasn't smiling. Even if they all got to eat a delicious bento, only she wasn't happy. If it was only this, it would still be in the realm of understanding. However, what I don't understand about my child is that if the aforementioned situations happened again, they'd now act in a manner befitting their age. I don't understand the principle behind that as a parent. Why were they indifferent about that field trip but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that picture book but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that bento but happy about this one? The former and the latter in each situation seem exactly the same to me. There was even times when I thought the former one was better. I don't understand that child's feelings. During parent-teacher meetings, the teacher always says the same thing. I would always respond that I don't understand my child, and we would mope together. My husband, always the optimist, once said that a young child's feelings are different from an adult's. So if there were some things we didn't understand, we shouldn't worry about it. I lament his lack of urgency. One day, when I was in a good mood, I took the effort to prepare a menu that my child would enjoy. She only smiled with a vague expression of disinterest. That attitude frankly made me angry. Oh, so I hit her on the head. What? On a day when the weather was nice. The laundry I had hung up to dry was blown by a large gust of wind, causing the entire line to fall down. But she, watching me try to pick up the laundry, in a panic, stood there laughing. The attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. I think the same sort of thing happened countless times. Before I knew it, my child was only able to look at me with an indifferent expression on her face. I regret the fact that I've been a bad mother. Thinking I should regain her trust, I thought to get it back little by little with some light interactions. Seeing her do some craft work on the veranda, I called out to her. Trying to recognize the voice. That child with that. God, I'm trying to recognize that voice. Whose voice is that? That child with that indifferent look on her face I hated so much looked up at me for a moment, then without a word returned to immersing herself in her craft work. Up until now, I would have hit her on the head just for that. I held myself back. This is Toko? It sounds like this child could be Satoko. That child using inserts from a newspaper to deftly make some weather charms. The forecast hadn't called for rain. That child in her own way was praying that these sunny days would continue. Being able to understand my own child for the first time in a while, I couldn't hide my own happiness. Bringing out a ball of yarn, I began to hang my child's cute weather charms from the eaves of the house. Oh, it's Rika. When I started to take them down, my child tugged at the hem of my shirt as if to stop me. I desperately suppressed the emotions welling up inside of me. I was trying desperately to understand my child. That child turned to me with the expression that I hated the most. Don't understand. I don't understand. I just can't understand that child. So her mother sucks. I don't know. You have a weird child. So? I'm ready. Ready for the next one. This is technically the telling of Rika, right? So. This is different. During the family council, she buried herself under Oryu-san's futon again. Oryu-san dotes on her unwaveringly. No matter whatever insolence my child commits, she doesn't mind. It's almost as though my child is a kitten or something. Oryu dotes on her exactly like you would a kitten. Or with a kitten. As her mother, I chided her for doing that. Till Oryu-san had said 3 times that it was fine. Chided her as a until Oryu-san said 3 times it was fine. I chided her as a formality. Okay. Of course, she never lends an ear to any of my chidings. Okay. Knowing that Oryu-san's standing was far above mine, she behaves like that. I don't like the cunning that's unbefitting of her age either. In any case, not only Oryu-san, but the rest of the old folk in the village spoil her too much. One day I was surprised. By chance, on the way back from shopping, I saw her by herself outside a candy shop. My own child suddenly grabbed a snack, opened the package right there, and started eating it. She didn't make any attempt to pay for it, and she didn't even think of looking around. It didn't even feel like she was shoplifting, more like she were brazenly eating snacks that was offered to her. When I began to admonish my child, the elderly shop owner appeared and covered for her. The owner gave the ridiculous excuse that he had said it was okay for the child to eat any of the snacks out by the entrance, so it was fine. When I tried to pay for the snacks that my child had eaten, the owner refused my money. During that exchange, more old folks had suddenly gathered around and began to feel like I was the one in the wrong. The elderly people all put their hands together reverently in front of my child and repeatedly voiced their respect. I was born into the Furude family, so it wasn't like I didn't know why she was being treated specially. When I was still young, it was something I heard often from my grandmother. If by chance the child I gave birth to was a girl, that child would be the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. All of the older folk believe that she is the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama and spoil her rotten. Not only did they spoil her, but they even told her that she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, that she had a divine power and threw all sorts of strange folk tales her way. So, she may have begun to believe herself that she was a special existence. I went around and told everybody that it wasn't good for her upbringing, so to stop all these strange things, but there was no unrooting the elderly people's deep-seated superstitions. I told my child not to listen to them, but it ended up being that she stopped listening to me. Between all the old folks in the village who would dote on her, and myself who only scolded her, there was no wonder who she would listen to. There was no mistaking that the reason she had become strange was because of the elderly villagers. There was no doubt that they had shoved her full of strange folk tales and superstitions since she was young. If it wasn't for that, there was no doubt that my child would have been cute and normal. I don't know about that one. Also, my heater turned on because it's cold as fuck. Had to turn my heater off. Alright, I like these tips. Let's learn more about Rika here in Mother's Diary 3. I mean, they're interesting tips because they're from the point of view of the mother who is just pushing her child away. I imagine that's why she dies eventually. One sunny parent-teacher day, it was a cooking class and my child was making curry rice with a practiced hand. While the other children her age were awkwardly using their kitchen knives, that child was wielding hers deftly. The teacher approached me with a smile on their face, saying it must be the result of learning it at home. I managed to play it off with a vague smile and nod in response. That was because I had never once taught my child how to make curry rice. Even then, she was peeling vegetables with a practiced hand and adding them to the pot, in the order of which took longer to cook. For a normal parent, they might unintentionally clap their hands together, happy at their child's actions. But in my case, it was different. There was no mistaking that somebody had taught her how to make curry rice when I wasn't taking care of her. Thinking that, I quietly fell into an unpleasant mood. When I asked, it seemed like she could also sew and do the laundry. I had never taught her how to do those, and again, never saw her do it around the house. Be it cooking, or sewing, or the laundry. Again, that was probably because the elderly villagers taught her all sorts of rubbish when I wasn't looking. Not only that, probably taught her all sorts of strange superstitions, trying to prop her up as the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Said much to my husband, suggesting that we should keep our child away from the elderly folk. But my husband, who was in the position of being the head priest at the Furude shrine, had little power against the elderly who supported it. He took the rather uncommitted stance of saying that as long as she was being doted upon, wasn't it fine? I argued against that. She was our child, and she should become a completely normal girl. What the elderly were expecting, that she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was simply odd. The elderly villagers believe that the child has divine powers. We should discuss the weather for the following day, but there were many times I left the house without an umbrella and came back soaking wet. Rather than having clairvoyance, that was just secondhand knowledge from her watching the news all the time. Things she knew that she shouldn't have known were just a result of people who were trying to indoctrinate her, and the people who were gossiping getting together in the village. However, certainly days when everybody thought it was going to be a sunny all day and that child would stubbornly not go without an umbrella. It would occasionally rain, and in the end, we would be saved. There might have also been times where Rika knew of major incidents in foreign countries faster than the news did. I thought she must have heard it break over radio or something. Knowing things she shouldn't have. Something like that. It was in front of me right now, wasn't it? That child was making curry rice when there shouldn't have been anybody who taught her how to. No, that couldn't be possibly the case. Somebody had taught her, indoctrinated her. When I wasn't taking care of her, somebody had indoctrinated Rika with something. The other parents in attendance were impressed. Lies. All lies. I didn't teach her anything. Who was it? Who was it? Who was the person that had completely indoctrinated my child? Why is that the word you're using? She was a normal, average daughter, not living incarnation of Oishiro-san. My mother sucks. Detective, we just read all the tips. Alright, we're jumping right into the very last chapter. That I'm sure we'll do the after party as well. I don't know how long this last section is going to be, but... Is that Keiichi? No. This is we still Akaska? Please fasten your seatbelt. Okay, I'm on a plane. To Tokyo? Finally awoken from my slumber by the stewardess. I only had carry-on luggage on top of it being a domestic flight, so the time between disembarking and entering the lobby was almost non-existent. Arriving at the lobby, I glanced around looking for Oishi. I was met with a familiar gruff voice calling out to me. Akasaka-san! Am I coming back? Okay. Uishi clapped his hand down on my shoulder, celebrating our reunion. Uishi had retired and moved to Sapporo, and of all things had started taking ballroom dancing lessons. He had apparently gotten really into it and had decided to spend the rest of his new life devoted to that hobby. He was aiming to get his instructor's qualifications before he hit 80 and live out his old age dandily. I let myself into Oishi's car and we headed out towards the hot spring inn. I had originally intended to crash at Oishi's place, but Oishi was quite obstinate that his home wasn't suitable for that, so it came to this. At the end, we were relaxed while soaking in the hot springs, reminiscing about the time we played Mahjong together in Hinamizawa. It seemed that to celebrate our reunion, Oishi had looked for people who could play, but was unable to find a suitable candidate, and we had to give up on putting together a table. As we drank together, we excitedly recounted our exploits during the final manhunt. Oh damn. Dude, check that shit out. That's a sick looking Oishi, dude. It looks like he could be buff if you... But then there's that little curve. I don't know.
海外の軍用拳銃でした。関西系の暴力団組織が大量に戦場痕を調べました。
私はあの後しばらく現場を離れましたのでよくは知りません。結局全部闇の中ってことで決着。
Oishi smiled wryly as he sipped on his chilled drink.
あの後は大変でしたね。今年で7年ですか。
ええ。先日7回忌の岐阜とも最近は疎遠でして準備でいろいろ苦労し
それはお疲れ様でした。
Are we gonna learn what happened to my child? What miscarriage we had? With the bullet, we halted our conversation. Thinking about that was still hard, but the time it healed the wound. It was the day after. I had phoned Oishi to apologize. When I did, Oishi almost immediately handed the phone to one of my colleagues who happened to be there. Not only was I injured in the brawl with the suspects, but I might have disappeared to drink late into the night without leaving any sort of contact information, so I thought he'd definitely be mad. However, all he said is that it was something he couldn't talk about over the phone and that I should come to the station as soon as possible. At the time, I could only think that he must have been really pissed off. But when I arrived at the station, he had said this.
君の奥さんが事故に遭ったらしい。
赤坂幸恵様が事故でお亡くなりになりました。
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So there was a miscarriage, but it was because she tripped and fell. It was technically just both my wife and my kid died. Interesting. Well, my prediction that Yuki is actually Takano-san has officially failed. Interesting though. Interesting. I mean, it frees up a relationship slot for Tomitaki, I guess. And it also removes the kid out of the picture, which is interesting. I guess the question is... Well, no, there's no question. There's demons now. There's demons. There's no way people could be dying so far away from Hinamizawa unless there was a supernatural cause in the way. So that's interesting. I don't know. She had said, husband was away on business, and whenever he called, she was able to cheer him up and give him courage. But when he didn't call, she couldn't do that. Her husband might put on a show of bravado, but in reality, he grew lonesome pathetically fast. She was probably just the same. Whenever he left for business, not clear when he'd be back, she felt very lonely. Whenever she cheered him up, she was actually cheering herself up as well. That's why whenever he went far away from an important job, on the evenings he didn't call, at the very least she felt that standing under the same sky, her feeling was, oh my goodness, that's cheesy. At that moment I remember the words that girl had told me. That it was best I go back to Tokyo right away. Otherwise there would be something I'd regret horribly. Oh damn. Well, I mean she could be just a soothsayer. Had I known this would have been the result, had I done as the girl had said and dropped everything and head back to Tokyo, I might have been with Yuki on the day that she died. If I was with her, she wouldn't have gone up to the roof. The day my wife died was on the evening of the third day of my trip. Yes. It was right before the time I had the sudden urge to hear Yuki's voice and ran around the village trying to find a phone. The girl had gone around and cut all the phone cords. If she hadn't, and I had made that call, I would have undoubtedly learned of Yuki's death at the time and collapsed in tears. Of course, even though the cords were cut, it had only put me off learning of Yuki's death by that one evening. In the end, I had learned of it the next morning. However, when I managed to put my emotions in order, I realized that it was that girl's small token of consideration.
そんな話は
私も初めて話します。
偶然では超能力じゃあるまいし。
大石さんは教えて、あの子は親代様という神様の生まれ変わりではないかと。
ねえ、まあ村の年寄りどもはフルで理科に
神通力。
I wish he had originally said it as a kind of joke, but realizing that I was serious, he slumped his shoulders.
ああ、嘘か。未来のことを予言してみせたり、知らないはずのことを話してみせ、千里眼だの、天の啓示だの。まあ、いろいろ。もちろん、具体的な実例は。
雪絵の事故を予言してみせました。
I wish he tried to laugh it off, but out of respect to my deceased wife, he kept it restrained.
現職の警視庁の敏腕捜査官が神通力やらたたりやらを信じるわけで。
Of course, I had no intention of believing such odd things, but he could only say that because he didn't know what I did. Since I met that other girl who both was and wasn't Rika Furude, I couldn't deny the existence of any otherworldly entity.
予知でなく予告の可能性ももちろん否定できません。
What that girl had said about was a warning about Yuki's accident, and things became much easier to understand. Basically, the line of thinking became that it was a threat because I didn't go back to Tokyo. My wife was killed in a way that made it look like an accident.
奥さんの事故の検証に。
もちろん謀殺の可能現場検証の書類は全て目を通しましたし、私が独自に調査もしました。
There weren't any witnesses to Yuki's fall. Possibility that somebody could be hidden waiting to push Yuki down the stairs. However, the cleaning ladies frequented the roof to hang laundry, and the security cameras on each floor hadn't recorded anything out of the ordinary. There wasn't anything set up on the stairs, and I was unable to find anything suspicious.
結局独自の検証の結果で、確かに大臣の孫を誘拐して脅迫、妊婦一人を階段から突き落として証拠を残さないなんて。
奥さんは連中に殺された。
When Yuki died, I thought that as well. More precisely, I wanted to blame somebody, so I created the most viable scapegoat. But without clear evidence, that violent notion faded along with the wounds in my heart.
あの少女は私に妻の死をそれとも妻の死を予言し、そのどちらかなのだとしたら、
Uishi smiled slightly in disbelief as he poured more beer from his bottle.
いや、いいです。赤坂さんの言う通り。 フルで理科は、なら、なぜあの大災害があんな恐ろしいガス災害が起こると知ってて、どうして黙っていたんです？ほんの数時間前でもいい。もし村に知らされていたら、ほとんどの人は死なずに済んだかもしれないじゃないですか。
Ooh. Ooh, bombshell. Wait. So, gas eruption. Gas eruption happened in Satoko's story. Is this the same timeline as Satoko's story? It was near the end of June 1983. Great disaster, Hinamizawa Disaster Memorial List. Volcanic gases from the Onagafuchi swamp erupted and hit the village in the middle of the night. It was an unprecedented disaster where the whole populace was wiped out. It created a wave of panic about volcanic gas across the country, causing people to overreact over any reports of odd smells. I hadn't heard of the blockade on Hinamizawa area being lifted, so it should still be condoned. We are in the timeline where Rika dies. And the volcanic eruption happens. But it's not me that kills Rika. We just don't know who killed Rika. In this timeline, Satoko ran away, right?
まあでも、
Well, we could be in a different timeline with that same thing happening. I wouldn't pet it past this game.
親代様の生まれ変わりであるフルデリカが殺されたので、村が親代様の怒りに触れて、それで沼から正気が湧き出して、村を死滅させたんじゃないか。
Fucking crazy, Oishi, coming up with the theories.
そういう話が確かに、
大石さん、今、殺されたとおっしゃいましたか？
Yep.
ん？おう、まあ、赤坂さんになら話しても問題ないか。
I saw the news about that gas disaster. I remember that girl. I then found her in the list of victims. That's why at the time I thought her own death was she predicted was due to the gas. It was after that I learned from the tabloids of the mysterious deaths in Hinamwa during the 5 years leading up to the disaster. It became known as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. And that string of mysterious deaths lined up exactly with what the girl had predicted, so I'd always thought to ask Oishi about it, as he had been involved in the investigation. That's right. That was the reason for our reunion. But right now, Oishi had said, Rika Furude didn't die in the disaster, but was killed.
最後の年のたたりについて聞かせてもらってもいいですか？中井さん、すみません。お冷やでちょっとグレードの高い種類はお任せします。
いやいや、そういうつもりで言ったんじゃないんだけどな。
Did I just try to get Oishi drunk to get information? Not wholly satisfied, and it's not to tell her that the Chibu's is fine.
私も週刊誌で報道でも大災害の年のたたりは全く知りません。
So I guess this is an interesting continuation after the very last episode that we played. So the beginning of this game was at the beginning of everything, and then this part is after everything, after those stories with the gas eruption. And in the gas eruption, Shitoko had fled. Rika had gotten killed by someone other than Satoko or Keiichi. And I don't know who killed Rika.
例の大災害のせいで、最後の年のたたりについては、何年か後に封鎖が解けたとしても、村人のほとんどが死んでますし、完全に迷宮入りです。
Uishi seemed to postulate himself as he stared at the ceiling, as if trying to work out a memory from the rusty cogs in his head. Then he said in a completely sober voice,
週刊誌なんかじゃ、5年目のたたりが大災害だ。本当の5年目のたたりは、 富武二郎っていう旅行写真家がいましてね、彼が犠牲に。
I'm not Tomitaki? I'm a Casca, actually? Why do I sound like Tomitaki? What? Rishi gestured at how the victim towards.
で、その富武氏の恋仲の女性が山中で焼死体。
Yo, that's a. Oh my goodness, I was so sure. I had like brought a camera with me, and they hinted at it too. Did they just pull a Danganronpa on me? Did they just pull a Danganronpa on me where they were like, let's completely hint in this direction, and then at the last second, freaking jerk it away from you and make it a completely different person? Oh my god, they just Danganronpa'd me. That was. I'm not Tomitaki-san?
お隣の県警さんがあんまり協力的じゃなかったもんで、
That
こっ
is
ちはあまり状
surprising.
況を知らないんですがね。
That's so surprising. I gotta stop pressing right click.
一夜にして犠牲者が2人も。
I thought for sure.
二人どころじゃその翌日に私の後輩の熊谷君が捜査中に車両ごと蒸発しましてね。
The younger detective that was going to be partnered with Higurashi.
富武氏の事件捜査の何かの事件に巻き込まれたのかもしれない。私と一緒だったなら無事だったかもしれないと思うと、あの日どういうわけか私、外回りは遠慮しちゃってたんですよ。
事件の真相に近づきすぎて。
と思ってます。熊ちゃんは善と有望な若者だったけど、まだトラブル慣れしてなかったんです。
Rishi lamented the fact that he wasn't with his subordinate that day.
で、さらによ、なあ、彼のことは赤坂さんもご存知ですよね。
What the fuck are we talking about? Who am I? Who am I?
ほら、入江先生ですよ。
Oh, okay. I didn't read the well. I thought the sentence said, I was confused for a second because I thought it said, and the next day you see, you know him as the Casca-san. And then I was like, wait a second. Please don't. Please don't do that.
覚えてます？
I remember him, yes.
あの病院のぼんやりと覚えてます。
Why am I not Tomitaki? That's crazy. I thought for sure.
彼ですね。どういうわけか遺書の類はなし。司法解剖の結果でも睡眠薬による動機以外に不審な点は。
睡眠薬での死に見せかけるのはそんなに難しくないんじゃないですか。他殺の可能性は。
独身で離婚歴も特定の女性と付き合っていたという話。少年野球チームの監督を務め、村敵が見当たりませんね。まあそれを調べるにも、もう今となっては彼の身辺を
It
調べよ
was
う
because
もありませ
Keiichi
ん。
wished him dead. There's this freaking supernatural shit going on.
その当日です。昼頃に神社に訪れ
If anything, Satoko's chapter confirmed a lot of the supernatural shit going on. Unless you can explain, I would love for them to explain to me how Satoko's episode happened with just normal ass people. Like, I want to know. Because the explanation, if there's not demons, has to be so fucking convoluted. If there's not demons, the explanation has to be so fucking convoluted. I would love for them to try and explain how the Satoko's chapter isn't full demon.
フルで理科の死体を発見しました。
他殺。
ああ、話す前にそのイカそうめん食べちゃっといた方がいいですよ。
無体な死に方。
死体は神社の境内。最も閉めた全裸で裸足。足の裏は汚れてませんでしたから。
愉快犯の犯行。
司法解剖の結果、そういった分かったのは、薬物で昏睡させられてからあの場所へ運ばれ、腹部を切開。
昏睡では回復は死後ではなく。
うん。
なんて。むごい。
Pretty sure she was more detailed about the other deaths that led up to her own. For example, I think she said that the housewife that was beaten to death on the 4th year had her head split open. And in that case, did she know that her own death would be so terrible? There must have been some moments where she wanted to doubt the validity of her own predictions. But as people died exactly as prophesied, as the years passed, that prophecy would only come closer to fruition. And then, facing the final year, unable to struggle against her own destiny, her all too young life was snuffed out. And in such a cruel way. Knowing that her days were numbered and unable to fight the tide of events heralding her end, my heart ached at her helplessness.
この死に方ですが、どうも単なる猟奇趣味ってわけじゃと言いますのはですね、ひなみ沢はかつひなみ沢村のお祭りの綿流しってのはそもそも綿流し、つまり人食い鬼たちが内臓を皮
つまりひなみ沢村においては
で、人食い鬼と人間が仲良く暮らすための調停者としてお社さん、
確かフルデリカはそのお社様の生まれ変わりだと言われてるんでしたね。
ねえ、ですからその嵐人神であるフルデリカを回復して
信仰への冒涜、それはつまりお社様への、
あとは赤坂さんもお社様のたたりが起こるのはその晩、
ひなみ沢大災害。
The official explanation was that the swamp upstream erupted with toxic volcanic gas which enveloped the village.
発生した沼は鬼ヶ淵沼とひなみ沢村の旧名、村の言い伝えではこの沼の奥底は地獄につながってるそうで、いやいやいや、
Seems too perfect.
まだまだできすぎてます。村には伝承がありまして、お社様がお怒りになられると
村人にとって地獄というの、つまりそこから正気が溢れ出して村、
そう、つまりフルでリカ子とお社様の生まれ変わりが冒涜される殺され方をしたので、そういう話がまかり通っちゃってるんですよ。
つまりあの大災害は
お社様のたたりが実在せず本当の偶発的事故でもないってんなら、そう疑いたくもなりますよね。
Wry smile formed on Oishi's face as he listened to my absurd take on things. Jesus, how am I not Tomitaki? That's a crazy development. Rika even said like Tomitaki too, and it was like, what? That's that. I called it. There it is. I'm Tomitaki-san, 100%. And I'm not, and that's so weird to me. It's exactly how I felt after the first Danganronpa trial
村
that
の
I
信
ever
仰をめぐっ
played.
て狂信的な一派があったと仮定し、彼らがお社様のお怒りがあるような状況を作り出し、大災害を実行してみせ。
もちろん私も一度ならずともそう考えたことはあります。ですがひなみ沢村がいかに小さい村とはいえ、人口それを一夜にして抹殺するなんてどう考えても現実的じゃないです。
The gas eruption was believed to have happened around 2 a.m., several hours before dawn. In that short amount of time, going around and killing all the villagers that in a way that made it look like poisonous gas didn't seem feasible at all.
ガスの発生した沼もまた、だとしたら沼に何か仕掛けがあって神の裁きをいつ。
自衛隊の発表では沼が発生源だということになってますよね。調査チームとかが詳しく調べた上での発表ですからね。そんな仕掛けがあったら見つけてると思いますけどね。
沼そのものに仕掛けがあるとは限りませんよ。ほら、聞いたことありませんか？遠くの泉の水が枯れたら村の泉も枯れた。
何ですかそりゃ。
水源ってのは地下水脈と沼や泉はそれが地上に露出した部分に過ぎません。
つまり赤坂さんが言いたいのは、それに何らかの仕掛けをすると鬼ヶ淵沼の圧力とかそういう話ですよね。
Rishi laughed heartily, commending the fact that the youngins have a nice flexible way of thinking. That was the former detective in him. Even though it was a hypothesis he didn't come up with, he still had the presence of mind to not dismiss it right away.
面白い話です。それが立証できたら、日本の犯罪史始まって以来の空前規模の大
ひなみ沢村の封鎖が解除されたら、ぜひ調べるべきだと。大石さんは県警にはまだ影響力は？
そこそこに柔道部の名誉顧問ですからね。今
ひなみ沢村の封鎖解除がいつになるか分かりませんが。
わかりました。
大石さんはこのひなみ沢村連続解
当時の署内は村人の圧力で連続事件は存在しないというのが当時。事件はここでまたそれ
バカな。村の信仰に基づいた連続事件であることは明白なのに。
赤坂さん、そりゃ5年も続いて派手な最後があった今だから言えることで、あの当時は偶然の事件が偶然にも綿流しの私は起きないといいななんて感じだったんです。
偶然なものか。少女は初めからすべて。
少女？
フルで理科です。あの子は私にその後の事件をすべて予告してみせました。
赤坂さん、そりゃ本当ですか？
あの子は言ったんです。翌年ダムの現場監督が殺されのみにとどまらず、その後に続く連続事件をすべて。
赤坂さんがその話を聞いたのは昭和の何年の話ですか？
私が少女と出会ったのは誘拐事件。
バラバラ殺人の前年に？赤坂さん、フルで理科が神通力で未来が分かった。
はい。
今さら私を驚かせるための作り話。
私は連続開始事件は発生の前年には、そしてその予告の通り、私ははじめ大災害による死を指し、でも彼女の死は災害ではなく、彼女は殺されると言った。彼女は自分の死を具体的
ならフルで理科は仮にそういった死のシナリオ、彼女はそれを知りかつ逃げ出すなり警察に相談するなりの、なぜ抗わずに。
わかりません。
フルで理科は村の年寄り連中に可愛がられてはいましたがね、両親を失った後は親類もゼロで身寄りはなく、戦う力も頼れる人間も短い。
彼女は自分の死に対して誰かに SOS を発しはしなかった。
村と警察が穏便な関係じゃなかったのは赤坂さんも知られるところだと思います。少なくとも私の耳にはフルであるいは自身が宗教的なそういうものがあったのかもしれませんね。
そんなはずはない。
I spoke decisively. At that time, she said it. She definitely said that she wanted to live happily, that she wanted to spend her time surrounded by her dear friends. She hadn't given up on life, she had hoped to keep on living. That moment, I became dumbstruck.
どうしました赤坂さん？
いえ。
I fell into silence. Weishi folded his arms and began murmuring in contemplation again. Eventually, he stood up and headed towards the hallway to find the hostess, yelling that he wanted a pen and paper. Weishi, noisy even though he was just thinking, left. The room immediately fell into a chilled silence. I stood up. It was then that I realized I was drunk enough to be unsteady on my feet. I slid open the window, a beautiful yet somehow ephemeral moon drifted across the sky. It was just now that I realized she hadn't accepted her own death. She wanted to keep living. Happily and joyously. She had said that quite clearly to me, but I was a fool. I hadn't been asked explicitly, so I hadn't realized it. She had made it clear as day that she didn't want to die. Isn't that a cry for help? Or her cry for help? She didn't say as much that she wanted help, but even given that, it wasn't as though she wasn't looking for salvation. Without any family and unable to trust the police, she instead told somebody without any relation to the village, somebody from a faraway place. Me. Help me. She had gone around and cut the phone cords. If I had made that call and learned of Yuki's death, I probably would have fallen into despair. If I was in that state, even if she was looking for help, her cries would have fallen on deaf ears. That's why. Knowing everything, she had cut the phone cords. She just wanted a little time to seek help from me. Higurashi, just before now, had lamented that one of the younger officers had gotten mixed up in the case and had been erased because he wasn't there. I was feeling the same way. If only I was there in the June of 1983, I could have protected her. In 1983, it would have been 5 years since the kidnapping took place. While raising the only daughter Yuki had left me, putting all my youth and passion into my work, honing my wits and courage, wrestling with difficult cases. Nothing like my failings during the kidnapping incident would have occurred. I wouldn't have been slow to react on the one-on-one fight, and by that point, I'd jumped into foreign mafia-run gambler parlors where I'd learned to deal with automatic weapons, let alone handguns. I'd grown so much that in 1983 I couldn't have even compared to how I was in 1978. That's why if I was by her side, I should have been able to save her life. No matter what conspiracy or foul plots drew near, I definitely would have protected her. She, even though sounding resigned, should have been still been able to ask me for help. I just didn't realize it. I couldn't realize it. Just as I wouldn't have realized it if I was told of Yuki's incident. I wasn't able to realize it. I wanted to cry. If I had taken her words to heart, I would have prevented Yuki's accident. I would have been able to protect the girl to whom I owed a debt from even a predetermined death. He must have been expecting that from me. I learned about the disaster while watching the television in my house. Until I learned about that, I had forgotten about Hinamizawa. In order to recover my shock from Yuki's death, I had tried to remove everything about the place from my memory. What an ungrateful fool I was. Even though in exchange for saving her, the girl had told me of a way to save Yuki, I was unable to accept her gratitude. No, here we were. She hadn't died in her sleep due to a natural disaster. She was split open while still alive, killed while suffering the disgrace of having her organs torn out. She must have known beforehand, but heard that on that year, she would be killed in such a terrifying way. But even knowing what end awaited her, she was all too weak. A lone girl without anybody to rely upon, unable to seek help, had to swallow her own predetermined death, and left this mortal coil. She said she wanted to live. She just wanted to live happily. That's all she wanted. She didn't ask for anything extravagant. For any person that was ever born, it was the very basest of desires. She never said a peep without wanting money, or about wanting money, or that she wished she was in somebody else's situation. She had said it. That if all the deaths were preordained, then hers was probably also all according to plan. She might have been a lone, frail girl, but I don't think she would have accepted it without at least putting up a fight. There must have been, in some small way, some form of resistance that she mustered. And with what she could muster, seeking my help was part of that. stomped the floor. Why did I become a police officer in the first place? How could I call myself an officer if I couldn't save a single girl from the misfortune that was awaiting her? It was because there was so much going on at the time I couldn't process the fact that she was asking for help. No, it was because she made a wild claim that like 9 people were going to be murdered and that she was also going to be murdered. The only way that he would have known is if he would have kept track of Hinamizawa's like murders. It was still green. If I was in that situation now, I definitely would have been able to help her. But it was already all over. Even if I wanted to settle the regrets she left behind, Hinamizawa, as a dangerous area, was still quarantined. Most of the people involved were already dead, and with the few that did remain, spread around the country, unable to be traced. The stage of that tragedy was still off limits as well. The police investigation was put on hold, the case slowly being buried in the sands of time. Just like how I wouldn't have known unless Oishi had asked me about it.
Akasaka-san, 大丈夫ですか?
At some point, Oishi had returned with a notebook in hand. Until I saw the expression on Oishi's face, I didn't realize that I was in tears.
私は少女の助けに。
Akasaka-san, 落ち着いてくだ。
でも少女は殺された。こんなにも無残な殺され方で私は頼られたのに救えなかった。救えなかった。
I don't know why I press right click so much. It's just my finger clicks down for no reason.
関係を築かなかった私にも責任があるかもしれません。フルでリカが私にそれを打ち明けてくれたなら、彼女が打ち明けに足る信頼を築けなかった。後悔しています。
When Oishi said the word trust, it weighed on me even more. Yes. She had given me her trust. She trusted me, meaning that she thought I would have been able to ward off the fate of her her foreseen death. She believed in that. I cried. I fell to my hands and knees as I began to bawl. Eventually, Oishi spoke quietly.
赤坂さん、悔しいですか? ならば、フルでリカの仇を取るに値する方。
あるんですか?
Give me the pen
フ
and
ルでリ
notebook.
カの死を悼むために。そうです。大勢が死にました。彼らの無念は計り知る。でも彼らの死はあの大災害でうやむやにされ、今は捜査する。大勢死んだ。なのに警察は捜査もできないでいる。誰に無念が晴らせるの？私たちだけ。赤坂さん。
私たち。
ええ、明かせますよ。連続開始事件のすべての現場を踏み、裏の裏事情に精通する私と。
でも、
そうです。フルでリカはあなたが青2歳だったから救えなかった。
What the fuck is happening? Oishi grabbed me, who was erect, and lifted me firmly by the
だから
lapels.
その償いとしてあなたの話が事実なら全ての事件はそうならば調べ方は全然変わってくる。私は今夜をかけてあなたと私の持つ全ての事件を終わらせるものか絶対に暴いてやるんです。ねえ、あれから数年が経過しましたが時効捜査は中断であっても終了ではない。まだ続いているんだ。続けさせるんです。私たちがです。
Oishi and I vowed to bring the truth of the case to light and stood out. Everything ended in 1985. I, at least wanting to apologize, had searched for her grave. After the state autopsy, her remains were entrusted to one of the shrine's followers. In the future, when the quarantine on Hinamizawa area was lifted, they would be returned to her family grave. However, unsure who exactly took the remains of Rika Furude, until today I couldn't even apologize to her. Okay. In the future, when the quarantine in Hinamizawa was lifted, all I could do was wait until whoever that person is returned to the grave. What I could do right now was not apologize to her. Instead, I was able to meet her again. I would reveal the truth and dispel her regrets. Even now, sporadic eruptions of gas in Hinamizawa meant that prospects of the quarantine being lifted wasn't happening anytime soon. Most likely, it seemed that she had no intention of meeting me again until I found the truth. That's why the quarantine wouldn't be lifted, or so I thought. Until the day I grasped the truth. It was the following year. Oishi and I co-authored a book on the string of mysterious deaths leading up to the great Hinamizawa disaster. I decided on the title. Higurashi, when they cry. That was because for the few days I was in Hinamizawa, the sound I remembered the most was the cry of the Higurashi. I could only wish that based on this book, those people who were involved with that incident could refresh their memories and bring to light a new truth. And more importantly, that nothing like this ever happens again. I wrote this in the afterword. Why did this tragedy happen? We can't reach the truth by ourselves. If you are reading this, please discover the truth. That is our only wish. Berardo, Oishi, and Mamoru Kasuga. This year, the quarantine on Hinamizawa still hasn't been lifted. Is that the end? Did we finish? An explosion. All cast. We did it. Wow, we finished that in one episode. We did all the tips. We did all the stuff. We just completed that in one episode. I thought that was going to take at least 2 episodes to finish the thing. Anyway, that is chapter, 5? Or episode 5. I'm calling them episodes. Everything is going to be an episode, and then the things in between are going to be chapters. So that is episode 5. Interesting stuff happened in this one. I know it's an hour, so I apologize for the length of this one, but it's the final one of the chapters, so I always have to make those longer because I don't know why I make the ending episodes longer than I do the middle episodes. We learned a couple things. So Rika has the split personality as well. It seems very much that she is a soothsayer. And I kind of got that from the other games as well. And then kind of saying that she's the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. A lot of the stuff fits in pretty well with what happened. I think they're going to have to work real hard to dispel, I think, what happens, and I think why this is crazy and why this has like a cult following behind it is because what they're gonna do is they've set it up right where, like I said before, it's so interesting that I mean, what am I looking for? It's interesting that all this stuff happened, right? And it all seems like there's doppelgangers. There's people walking around that were supposed to be dead. There's people dying from across the world that aren't even in Hinamizawa, but that, died. And it's all like very supernatural, right? It seems like a demon does this. I think maybe where this is going is they're going to explain this to me and they're going to give me a reason for things. I mean, I would love them to. I really love them to, because chapter 4 just kind of like threw everything as far as like actual humans doing anything. It's like Keiichi was in the dream world. He had like lost his mind for a second, became okay with killing. I think maybe he just went crazy. You could also attribute a lot of the stuff to like people being crazy, but then there's like people are walking around dead. And the second one, I believe, was the one that people started walking around, like that was the one that we discovered like Mion torturing her sister, and she like died, but then she got like lived, but then Shion lived and stabbed Keiichi, and it was weird stuff. And then there was one where Rena is a thing, but then what is Rena really to this whole story as well? Because if you think about it, Rena's kind of like an odd. She's just crazy for the sake of being crazy. I think, right? She's kind of like the odd one out. If you think about it, Satoko's kind of like the family that was against the dam construction, so she has like a role, right? Like that's her family. Then there's Rika, who's like one of the three families, right? And then there's Mion, who's one of the three families. But then there's Rena, who just went crazy because she likes Oyashiro-sama. She's like a fangirl, right? And now like she's just an evil demon. It's also weird how like I don't know how they're gonna explain there not being demons when there's literal personality transformations and like shadows killing people and stuff. I think that's where this cult following comes from though. Is the only thing that I can think of that would be super crazy if they within reasonable belief, within like a certain amount of suspension of disbelief, they explain the situations that have been happening as if there are no supernatural things going on. Either that or there's hella supernatural things going on and it's the complete opposite. I don't know yet. And I'm sure we're going to get some answers in the next one. But before we go on to the next one, we're going to play the extra story in the next episode. So it should only be a couple minutes. So I'll probably record it tomorrow along with something else. And just kind of throw that up tomorrow as well. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Thank you guys so much. We're gonna play through this whole thing. I know I've said it every time. Every time I end, I'm freaking. If I don't say that to myself, I'm gonna not. I'm gonna like. There's gonna be a point where I'm gonna be like, oh well, we're at the second to last chapter. Let's just stop. No, we're playing this whole thing. I've come this far. I'm playing this whole freaking visual. This is the longest visual novel I've ever played. I think next to Steins Gate. Steins Gate was pretty long for me because I don't really like. I like visual novels, but I would never really. I like doing it this way, like as a channel. I don't know if I could play visual novels unless I was playing it for the channel, just because the amount of like the book club is kind of cool, just to have people. Anyway, I'm mumbling now. This is going to be interesting. We're going to see what theories they have in the extra comments or in the extra story next time, because it's always interesting to listen to what the game is trying to tell you. Because you never know if the game's trying to throw you off or like what the game's trying to say as far as what's going on with the story. And so it's interesting that they put those in or put that little section in. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this chapter, please hit the like button. I would appreciate it. Also subscribe if you haven't done so already. There's lots of visual novel and shit, visual novel content, and then also like roguelike content and stuff like that if you're interested in any of that. And who knows, maybe I'll mix it up here and there. I'll see you guys in the next episode, whatever that may be, and peace out, you guys.